What if the answer wasn't in a pill bottle, but in something you've walked past 100 times, a tiny spice that quietly tells your body, I still remember how to be a man? If that sounds impossible, just stay with me for a moment, because what you're about to hear might bring something back. Something you thought was gone. My name is Dr. Max Cole. I'm a board-certified urologist. And for the past 30 years, I've sat across from men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, all asking the same silent question. Is this the part where I just accept it? The slow mornings, the fading intimacy, the quiet drift between who they were and who they fear they're becoming. But I've learned something beautiful over the decades. Aging doesn't mean vanishing, and the body, especially a man's body, is never done healing. It's just waiting for the right tools, the right timing, and sometimes the right voice to say, you're not alone, and you're not broken. I've helped men rebuild their erections, restore their testosterone, and reclaim their sense of self, not by chasing youth, but by honoring wisdom. By understanding how stress, sleep, even oral health, and urinary incontinence will affect sexual health in ways most doctors never talk about. And yes, even how things like masturbation or semen retention power, when approached with intention, can support vitality instead of stealing from it. That's why today I want to guide you through a natural method, something simple grounded in biology, and surprisingly forgotten to help you rekindle blood flow, sleep better, and feel alive in your body again. So if this kind of honest, heartfelt advice for elderly men speaks to you, go ahead and tap the like button. Subscribe to Life Over 50 Plus, and let's begin this journey one quiet breath at a time. 1. The spice you've ignored for decades. One of the most common patterns I've seen in senior men is the quiet surrender. Not out loud, not dramatic, but in the little ways, the way they stop expecting certain mornings, the way they begin skipping intimacy conversations, or the way they gently laugh off the topic of erections like it's no longer relevant. And I understand, because when you've tried the pills and heard the same urology advice over and over again, it's easy to assume this is just how the second half of life looks. But that assumption is what keeps many men stuck. Not because they've failed, but because they've never been told the whole truth. You see, the real reason erections become less reliable after 60 has far less to do with testosterone than most believe, and far more to do with blood flow. Specifically, the microvessels, those tiny flexible arteries that used to flood the lower body with warm, responsive energy, slowly become stiff, narrow, and underused. It's not erectile dysfunction in the way it's advertised. It's a form of vascular forgetfulness, the body simply losing rhythm with itself. And here's what shocked even me years ago. A spice most of us have sitting in the back of our kitchen cabinet has the exact compound your body's been missing to reawaken that rhythm. Cloves. That tiny brown bud you use once a year during the holidays. Turns out cloves are packed with a compound called eugenol, a natural vasodilator that gently opens blood vessels and signals the body to restore flow, particularly in areas linked to male sexual health. Not only does eugenol enhance circulation, it also triggers the release of nitric oxide, the same molecule pharmaceutical pills try to mimic, but without the side effects, crashes, or reliance. And it doesn't stop there. Cloves also contain beta-caryophyllene, which helps calm the nervous system, reducing cortisol, improving sleep, and letting your testosterone operate in a stress-free environment. All from chewing 2 cloves slowly for 60 seconds a day. It sounds almost too simple, and that's what makes it powerful. Men don't need more complicated routines or expensive prescriptions. They need tools that are accessible, age-friendly, and rooted in the truth of how the body actually works after 60. Let me tell you about someone, Frank, 74, retired electrician, quiet man, hands like leather but eyes that soften when he speaks about his wife. He came to me not with a complaint, but with a confession. He said, "Doc, I still want her. I just don't know if my body remembers how." That hit me, because that desire, that longing, it never goes away. It just gets buried beneath stress, disappointment, and the unspoken fears of aging. I gave Frank the clove method. No pressure, just trust. And within 3 weeks, he told me he woke up one morning feeling a kind of heat he hadn't felt in years. No medication, no performance anxiety, Just the quiet confidence of blood flowing again naturally. These are the moments that remind me why senior wisdom matters. Because in a world obsessed with performance, sometimes the most profound healing comes from returning to the basics. A calm breath, a steady hand, and the willingness to listen to your own body again. So let me ask you gently, have you ever had a moment where something simple, a walk, a clove, a pause reminded you of the strength still inside you? If you feel like sharing, I'd love to hear about it. There's a good chance another man reading your comment will think to himself, maybe I'm not the only one. And while clove can help your blood flow, there's something else, something invisible that might be quietly shutting everything down long before your body has a chance to respond. It has nothing to do with age and everything to do with what's been weighing on your mind for years. Let's talk about that next. 2. The real reason erections get weaker after 60. Most men over 60 assume that when erections begin to fade, it's just age catching up. And I understand why that's the narrative we've been sold. You're just getting older. Be grateful for what still works. Or worse, you should focus on other things now. But the truth is that mindset is one of the biggest barriers to healing. Because when you believe the decline is inevitable, you stop asking the right questions. You stop listening to your body, and eventually you stop hoping. Here's what I wish every man over 60 knew. Erections don't weaken simply because of age. They weaken because of what age does to your system, and more importantly, what we don't do in response. The biggest culprit isn't low testosterone, though that plays a role. It's not even masturbation history, despite what some fear. It's something far more silent, the gradual breakdown of your circulatory infrastructure. Over time, your microvasculature, the tiny vessels that deliver blood to the groin, become stiff, inflamed, or clogged. The arteries narrow. Blood flow diminishes, and with it, your sexual response fades. Not from a lack of desire, but from a lack of supply. Your brain may still send the signal, but the body can't deliver. Now here's what most men don't hear from their urologist. That decline is reversible. Your body has an incredible capacity for restoration, but only when we create the right conditions. And this is where the clove method starts to work its deeper magic. By increasing nitric oxide, naturally clove helps reawaken those dormant vessels. It massages the inner walls of your arteries, restoring flexibility and responsiveness, especially in the lower pelvic region. More than just circulation, it reintroduces confidence. Not because of an artificial boost, but because you begin to trust your body again. And that trust, that's the foundation of male vitality. I remember one patient, Michael, 72, widower, former track coach. His voice cracked when he told me he was dating again, but avoided intimacy out of embarrassment. I just can't do what I used to, he said. I walked him through the science of how blood flow diminishes over time, how stress, blood sugar, even mild urinary incontinence could be impacting his sexual health. He was stunned not at the information, but at the fact no one had ever told him this before. He thought he was broken. We began the clove protocol, slowly, gently, with no pressure, just curiosity. By week 4, he called to say he felt a return of aliveness. He wasn't rushing into sex. He was rediscovering his body's ability to respond. And that made all the difference. That's what I want for you, not just better erections, but a better relationship with your body, a new sense of agency, a reminder that it's never too late to come back to life. If any of this feels familiar, the doubt, the quiet frustration, feel free to share your story below. Even a single sentence like, "Yep, that's me," can go a long way. You never know who's reading and silently nodding along. Now that we've explored the truth behind weakening erections, it's time I show you how to actually do the 60-second clove method, the simple daily ritual that's helping thousands of men over 60 restore their confidence from the inside out. 3. How to do the 60-second clove method. Now that you understand the power behind this humble spice, let's talk about how to use it. Because even the most powerful remedy won't do much if it's not done the right way. But don't worry, this isn't complicated. In fact, that's the beauty of it. I always tell my senior patients, especially those over 60, that the most effective health tips are often the simplest. Not another prescription, not another supplement to add to the shelf. Just a small moment of care that becomes part of your routine. And this one only takes a minute. Here's how to do it exactly as I walk my patients through it. Each morning and optionally each evening, take 2 whole cloves, not ground clove powder, whole dried cloves. Ideally organic, but any good quality clove will do. Place them toward the back of your mouth near your molars. Bite down gently until they crack. You'll feel a warm, slightly numbing oil begin to spread. That's eugenol at work. Now here's the key, don't rush. Let those oils coat your mouth for 30 seconds. Breathe through your nose. Relax your jaw. Let your saliva mix with the clove's essence. This is where absorption begins through the soft tissue of your mouth, not your stomach. Then slowly chew for another 30 seconds. Just enough to release the rest of the oils. Let your tongue rest on the roof of your mouth. That helps circulate the compounds. After the full minute, you can swallow or spit, both are fine. Most men tell me they feel something almost immediately. A subtle warmth in their chest, a sense of clarity. Sometimes even an emotional shift, like their body is saying thank you. I remember this, but this isn't about chasing a quick fix. It's about showing up for yourself gently, consistently. That's how real change happens, especially when it comes to senior wisdom and men's health. And remember, this method isn't just helping blood flow. It's helping regulate stress, calm the nervous system, and encourage semen retention power through better hormone balance. I had one gentleman, Gregory 67, who added the clove ritual to his morning walk. He called it his circle back to manhood time, not because of anything dramatic, but because it made him feel grounded. And honestly, that's what most of us are looking for as we age, not flash or gimmicks, but grounding. A way to stay connected to the rhythm of our bodies even as life changes. So I'm curious, what's one part of your routine you've been meaning to reclaim? Your sleep, your circulation, maybe even your sense of sexual confidence. Drop a thought in the comments. I read each one. Now that you know exactly how to do this, let's talk about the best times to use it, because when you chew your cloves can be just as powerful as how. That's where we're headed next. 4. When to use the technique for best results. Timing isn't everything, but it can change everything. I've found that with many health tips for men over 60, especially when it comes to sexual health and circulation, it's not just what you do, it's when you do it that makes the biggest difference. You see, your body has rhythms like the tides of a quiet lake. There are moments in the day when your hormones rise, when your nervous system softens, and when your vessels are most ready to open. So when it comes to chewing cloves, here's what I recommend after working with thousands of elderly men. First, try it in the evening about 60 to 90 minutes before bed. This is when your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest side, begins to activate. Chewing cloves at this hour helps calm the system, which in turn promotes better sleep. And as you know by now, that's when your testosterone is built naturally. Many of my patients tell me they sleep deeper after the clove ritual. They wake up more refreshed, and more importantly, they start noticing the return of spontaneous erections in the early morning. That's not a coincidence. That's a sign your sexual education is evolving into embodiment. Now, if you're a morning person or want a different kind of boost, try it first thing after waking up before breakfast. On an empty stomach, the absorption is faster. It gives you a clearer head, steadier energy, and yes, more control when practicing semen retention power. And for those moments before intimacy, clove can be a beautiful ritual about 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time. It's not a pill you pop, it's a presence you create. A subtle, confident energy that says, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm ready. There's no single right time, only the time that feels right for you. And that's part of the beauty of being older. You don't have to follow someone else's rhythm anymore. You get to listen to your own. I often ask my patients to think of it like tuning an instrument. Clove isn't the song, it's the tuning fork. It prepares the body for harmony. And when you feel that alignment, even just once, you'll never forget it. If you've already tried the clove method, I'd love to know when in your day do you feel most connected to your body. Share that below. Sometimes one man's small insight becomes another man's breakthrough. Next, we'll explore a topic many men overlook: the hidden impact of stress on your sexual health. Because no matter how perfect your timing is, if your nervous system is under siege, none of it can truly take hold. 5. The invisible force that's been draining your manhood. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly at ease? Not just relaxed for a few minutes, but deeply safe, like the weight had been lifted off your chest. Most elderly men I work with don't even remember, because for years, sometimes decades, they've been carrying silent tension. Pressure to provide, to stay strong, to not show fear. And even now, after retirement, that weight hasn't gone anywhere. It just changes shape. Worries about health, finances, loneliness, the fear of decline, of losing your edge. What many don't realize, what most urologists won't explain, is that this chronic stress has been quietly draining your manhood. It's not just psychological, it's biological. You see, your body produces a hormone called cortisol. Its job is to help you survive short-term danger. But when cortisol stays elevated day after day, it sabotages your testosterone. They can't coexist. When one is high, the other crashes. That means even if you do everything right, the diet, the exercise for seniors over 60, the supplements, if stress is running the show, your hormones never get a chance to rebuild. And without testosterone, you don't just lose your libido. You lose your drive, your presence, your sense of self. Here's the hopeful part. That stress pattern is not permanent. And cloves, yes, cloves hold a surprising power in breaking it. There's a compound in cloves called beta-caryophyllene. It interacts with receptors in your brain, specifically the CB2 pathway, that help modulate anxiety and inflammation. In simpler terms, it tells your body you're safe. Within minutes of chewing cloves, many of my patients report a softening, not just in their blood vessels, but in their chest. Their breathing, their thoughts, it's like a dam breaking. One patient, Leonard, 68, told me, "Doc, I didn't even realize how tense I was until I wasn't anymore." And that right there, that moment of exhale, is the doorway to hormone recovery. Because once cortisol begins to drop, testosterone has room to rise again naturally. No injections, no gimmicks, just the body doing what it's always known how to do. But sometimes what a man needs most isn't another tactic, it's permission to pause, to let go of the noise, to feel what he's been avoiding. And if you've been feeling that pressure quietly building in your own life, I want you to know you're not alone. Every man carries something he hasn't told anyone. And that weight isn't weakness, it's evidence you've lived. If you're comfortable, I invite you to share a sentence, maybe even a word in the comments below. What's one thing you've been carrying lately? Sometimes naming it is the first step to releasing it. And once that burden starts to lift, you'll notice something miraculous happening. Not just in your heart, but in your sleep. And that is where we're heading next. 6. Chewing cloves equals better sleep equals more testosterone. If there's one thing I've seen over and over again in senior men, it's this: when sleep falls apart, everything else starts to crumble with it. Energy, mood, sexual health, even motivation. And the tragedy is most men don't even realize it's happening. They just chalk it up to aging. "I guess I just don't sleep like I used to," they say. But that's not a reason, it's a red flag. Because here's the truth. Your body does most of its healing and nearly all of its testosterone production while you sleep. Not just during rest, but during deep, uninterrupted REM cycles. When that's broken, whether from waking up often, light sleeping, or insomnia, your testosterone levels take a hit. And without testosterone, your strength, libido, even your mental clarity suffer. Now, how does a little clove help? It starts with your nervous system. We talked about eugenol and beta-caryophyllene. Earlier, these compounds don't just open blood vessels or reduce inflammation. They also influence the areas of the brain responsible for regulating circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle. When you chew whole cloves about an hour before bed, those compounds begin calming the sympathetic nervous system. Heart rate slows, thoughts settle, and most importantly, your body starts preparing for deep sleep. I've had men tell me they started dreaming again, something they hadn't done in years. Others noticed they stopped waking up at 3 a.m. like clockwork. One man, Harold, 73, said to me, "Doc, it's like my body remembered how to rest again." And when the body sleeps, really sleeps, it rebuilds testosterone like clockwork. It's not a magic trick. It's biology doing what it's always meant to do. And this is where the transformation begins. You go from surviving the day to restoring at night. You begin to wake up clear, focused, maybe even energized enough to take that walk you've been putting off. And as the weeks go on, these small shifts add up. Not just in your energy, but in the return of natural erections, renewed confidence, and a deeper connection with yourself and your partner. Because sleep is more than rest. It's your body's greatest tool for recovery. And if you've been struggling with insomnia or light sleep for years, I hope this part gives you hope. Your sleep can return, and with it, your strength. So let me ask you gently, what's been keeping you up at night lately? Worries, restlessness, maybe even something you haven't admitted to yourself. Feel free to share in the comments if it feels right. Sometimes the act of saying it out loud is the first step to change. Now that your sleep is improving and your testosterone is rebuilding, there's one more hidden culprit we need to talk about. One you may never suspect is affecting your erections, and it's hiding right behind your smile. 7. Gum disease could be destroying your erections. Here's a truth that still surprises most of my patients. Your mouth, yes? Your gums could be sabotaging your erections. And the worst part, you wouldn't even know it's happening. See, your mouth is one of the fastest entry points to your bloodstream. When your gums are inflamed, even just slightly, the bacteria doesn't stay in your mouth. It travels through your blood, to your heart, to your brain, and yes, to the tiny sensitive blood vessels that support your erections. It's what we call systemic inflammation. It's quiet, it's chronic, and it's devastating. One study found that men with advanced gum disease are up to 70% more likely to experience erectile dysfunction. And yet almost no one connects the two. They brush their teeth, maybe floss once in a while, but they don't realize that bleeding gums or bad breath could be early signs of a much bigger issue. Now here's where cloves become an unexpected ally again. Clove oil, naturally present in whole cloves, is one of the strongest antimicrobial compounds in nature. It's been used for centuries in dentistry for a reason. When you chew whole cloves, those oils coat your gums, your tongue, and the inner lining of your mouth. And in that moment, something powerful happens. The cloves begin neutralizing the bacteria that causes gum disease before it can enter your bloodstream. I've seen men with receding gum lines, chronic bleeding, or persistent bad breath start seeing changes within just 2 weeks of daily clove use. The bleeding slows, the smell fades, the inflammation softens. One patient, Sam 64, told me, "I used to think my bad breath was just from age. Turns out it was my gums, and it was killing more than my confidence." And he was right. Because when you clean up your gums, you're not just saving your smile. You're freeing up your circulation. You're removing barriers. And you're allowing blood to flow again where it matters most to your sexual organs. It's a small step, but it's foundational. And for many elderly men, it's the missing piece. If you've noticed gum issues, or even if you haven't, but haven't seen a dentist in years, it might be time to pay closer attention. And I'd love to hear from you. Has anyone ever mentioned the connection between oral health and erections to you before? Let me know below. Sometimes the smallest discoveries spark the biggest turnarounds. Now that your blood vessels are cleaner and clearer, let's take a look at what happens next. How your body starts shifting day by day, week by week, and what to expect when you stay consistent with this simple, powerful habit. 8. What to expect in 7 to 14 and in 30 days. By now, you might be wondering, if I do this, if I chew these cloves each day, what's really going to happen? And that's a fair question, because the beauty of this habit isn't just in what it does, it's in how it does it. The shift isn't explosive, it's subtle, but it builds layer by layer like sunrise after a long night. In the first 7 days, most men notice a gentle warmth return to their bodies. Circulation improves, sleep becomes a little deeper. The brain fog that's been clinging like a wet towel begins to lift. Some describe it as feeling more awake in the mornings. Not wired, just present. Around day 14, things tend to pick up speed. Energy increases. You may find yourself moving with more ease, or noticing that your morning walks feel lighter. And yes, this is often when spontaneous erections return. Not forced, not drug-induced, just your body remembering how to respond. And then by day 30, if you've been consistent, the transformation becomes undeniable. I've had men in their late 60s and 70s tell me, "Doc, I feel like myself again." Not in the way of youth obsession, but in the way of masculine presence. Grounded, clear, connected. One gentleman, Rana 72, said, "My wife looked at me differently the other day, like the man she married was back." And that's what this is really about. Yes, men's health. Yes, erections. Yes, testosterone and semen retention power. But even more than that, it's about reclaiming your dignity, your connection to your own body. Because as senior men, we're not chasing image, we're nurturing identity. That quiet strength that shows up in how we carry ourselves, in how we listen, in how we love. So if you're just getting started, or even if today is your first day, remember this. Your body was built to heal, to adapt, to surprise you. And every clove you chew is like a handshake between your past and your potential. I'd love to know if you've started already. What day are you on day 3, day 12? Let us know in the comments. You never know who your journey might inspire. And now, as we near the end, there's one last truth I want to leave with you, one that ties all of this together. Let's talk about how to protect everything you've rebuilt, not just for now, but for years to come. Final advice from Dr. Max Cole. If you've made it this far, I want you to pause for a second and take a breath, because that right there is the beginning of everything. Breath, presence. I've spent over 3 decades sitting across from men who felt like their bodies were slowly slipping away. Some held it in with silence. Others joked to hide the fear, but deep down they were asking the same thing. Am I still a man if I can't feel it anymore? And my answer always is this. Yes, you are. Because masculinity is not measured by performance. It's measured by courage. And the courage to try something natural. Something humble, like chewing a clove that's powerful. Now we've talked about a lot today. Blood flow, testosterone, erectile dysfunction, sleep, gum disease, and even stress. But the real thread running through all of it is trust. Learning to trust your body again. To give it the tools it needs and the time it deserves. And I know in this modern world that's not easy. We're told to chase pills, to fear aging, to see senior years as a decline. But I don't see that. I see wisdom. I see strength. I see men who've carried families, built legacies, and still have more to give. Especially when it comes to love connection and the quiet fire of sexual health. So if this message has spoken to you, if even a small part of it stirred something inside, I encourage you to take the next gentle step. Try the clove tonight. Breathe a little deeper, sleep a little better, and let tomorrow greet you with more clarity. And when it comes to masturbation, yes, even that can be part of your healing. Not from shame, but from wisdom. Knowing when to express and when to practice semen retention power. That balance, that awareness is what creates the deepest masculine energy. You're not broken, you're becoming. So if this conversation felt like a mirror or a spark or maybe even a quiet nudge to return to yourself, please consider tapping like subscribing to Life Over 50 Plus and maybe even dropping a word in the comments. You never know who might need it. Let's keep growing one day, one breath, one small clove at a time.